I'm going to direct people to Mark's outstanding and amazing background. Obviously, NERC is at the center of cybersecurity, reliability, and security, and we look to them for their leadership and wisdom. And Mark, you're so welcome here and delighted to have you with us. So take it away.
Well, I wanted to thank you, Sheila, and thank USEA and the board. Some friends that I recognize that are on the board, like Vicki and Barbara, I've worked with over the years, and certainly delighted to be here. You know, I have a history with the USEA. I think a good one. NERC, of course, as I've always when I worked at EPRI, the Electric Power Research Institute, we hosted a number of USEA delegations, either in our offices or in USEA's offices. And there was a number of courses also that I helped USEA put on in, I know for sure, Slovakia and Latvia, when those countries were just joining the European Union, and had an opportunity to chat a little bit about research and reliability even then. So excited to have an opportunity to be here today. And I'm also excited to chat a little bit about some of the challenges. And of course, I think that Allison did a tremendous job of kind of laying out some of the priorities that we're seeing. And overall, it's what many folks are calling the 3D transformation of the grid worldwide. More decarbonized, meaning that we're going to end up with perhaps generations a little bit more variable and fuel is a bit uncertain. More distributed, so we can capture benefits of widespread resources on the system, and sometimes interconnected with a distribution system, and more digitized in both load management and grid operations. And these trends show little tendency of stopping. In fact, perhaps even accelerating as both policy and economics start playing a significant role. And now, as Allison indicated, and from NERC's perspective as well, our focus has always been on whether the grid can be operated reliably, securely, and with resilience. There's 400 million people in North America that depend on the electricity to support their lives, and their dependence is only going to grow or increase as we digitize, transportation, process heating, space heating. And so it's a clean way to manage our carbon footprint through the use of electricity and various renewable resources. And reliability will probably have to go up. I mean, we used to have this kind of 1 in 10 type of adequacy measurement. That's probably not going to be sufficient going forward. In fact, I would dare say that capacity is not sufficient. And in fact, capacity in my mind as an engineer equals energy plus essential reliability services. And in fact, when we used to get the capacity, we got those other two, energy and reliability services. But now we have to think about it the other way around. What essential reliability services we need, what energy do we need, and that will equate to a capacity, because not all capacities are equal, right? And we need the system to ensure the system at the end of the day will deliver the kilowatt hours and at 60 hertz and at the prescribed voltages with a sufficient amount of ramping. So that kind of draws a host of questions that we're going to have to address in the coming months and years, and in order to kind of support the changes that we aspire to. A few major issues that come to my mind, I've listed kind of in a slide. Why don't you go ahead and move on to the next one? The one after that, please. We just have one slide here today, and I ask that you don't jump too far ahead. But one of the questions will be, well, where are the balancing resources really be coming from? The scale of this need is going to be enormous. And the idea of managing the uncertainty of the various fuel mixes that we have as policy and economics are driving us to a resource mix, which perhaps is more sensitive to weather, and certainly has a built-in uncertainty to fuel. And obviously, we're going to have a need for this transition support from natural gas infrastructure until storage or hydrogen or modular reactors, small modular reactors become available. So this is going to be one of the challenges that we're going to be facing as we go to this asynchronous grouping of renewable energy. And I think Allison mentioned it too, Commissioner Clemens mentioned it too, and that is the need for infrastructure and how we're going to get it built. We're going to really have to need to rethink the siting and eminent domain issues. I think that's what she mentioned, and the current infrastructure may expand FERC's authority, and hopefully that we can actually start using it. What resiliency tools will be needed to protect against this extreme weathers, especially when impacting generation availability and deliverability. Now, we have a lot of experience in the industry with hurricanes and tornadoes, though if you get them in multitudes, one right after the other, it can be very challenging no matter what. But with mutual aid assistance, and many times this is more of a distribution event, though it does hit the bulk system occasionally, the higher voltages, but we can string those in. And then, of course, the real challenge is getting those 30, 40,000 wood poles up and running, for example, what they're challenged with in Louisiana. But now we have events that take out a great deal of resources beyond just the transmission and distribution system, but rather generation. And they're widespread and they're long duration, and they're not going to go away. Because the unspoken truth here is that as we decarbonize, there are other countries that are carbonizing, and so we're going to continue to see these kind of extreme events, and so we got to make sure that we understand what the implications are and plan, design, and operationally plan what I'm going to be doing in the season ahead to deliver the energy and the essential reliability services, and then also on a rolling 3-week basis, perhaps. Where am I going to get my energy from? These are the challenges that are being faced more and more, certainly in my conversations with ISO New England, as well as in ERCOT, or excuse me, NTRE too, that they're facing. And we may have to think about, other solutions like maintaining some sort of solid liquid fuel capacity, kind of like in case of emergency, kind of break this glass and move in. Because as we start thinking about wind and solar droughts, potentially wildfires, which create smoke, which can turn off, of course, not only transmission lines, but then also inhibits PV from working. These are challenges we're not used to facing, and we're learning about and addressing. And I know we can address them. The story really is to make sure that we get to our destination a smoother pathway rather than a rocky one. And some of the major categories that I'm thinking about when I talk about this availability and deliverability is freezing issues, fuel, some of the electromechanical issues when you get 30 below. I don't know how many people live in Minnesota, but our automobiles are kind of growing a lot more in the wintertime than they do in the summer. And we would winterize them as well, but things tend to break when it gets really cold. Transportation system issues, protection system, and personnel, training, as well as this human performance issues. Another one of the questions that comes to my mind is how we're going to build a cyber secure system. The idea here is not to bolt on cybersecurity on the back end. We have a set of standards, of course, that we are using for the current operational technology that's out there. But as we start thinking about smart grids and microgrids and using more and more controls and virtualization and cloud, we have to ensure that that system is going to remain secure or even increase the security of it. It's not easy to bolt this stuff on the back end. And there's an increased sophistication, as you're all aware, of cyber attacks. And as we've seen with the supply chain challenges and ransomware, and these are from nation state adversaries as well as organized crime. So, and of course, nation states can be very, very patient and work hard and tirelessly and do that. Another question perhaps is, are we adequately protecting the existing critical assets from physical attack? And of course, there has been some concern about that in North America with not only international but domestic terrorism. So again, are we doing what we can to, I would say, de-risk the system so that losing a substation or 2 or 3 is not put the system at peril? And then just simply overall, do we have the right tools to model and assess and plan and operate the system? as I mentioned before, this one event in 10, maybe that's got the right number is going to be one event in 100. I don't know the answer yet, but it's something that we need to, as an industry, work together to identify what is the right level to build to. That's always been the way we've done this. We build at certain levels, and then we learn how to manage the degradation reliability to get beyond that robust level. And then we also learn how to stage and restore that system when you get beyond certain limits, and to do it in a quick fashion. Of course, that restoration is becoming more and more important. The system, of course, has always been stochastic. We've done these loss of load expectation calculations and all that. But now it's even more challenging because we have multiple states to be looking at, where actually the worst time may not necessarily be on peak, but maybe when you're doing maintenance on units and you have an unexpected cold spell that comes on board, and now all of a sudden all your energy is sopped up. So what does that mean? And how do we plan for that? Those kinds of scenarios to be ready for them. And I think we've seen some of this nibbling on the edges, certainly in California and in our face in Texas. And the difference between what happened in 2011, 12, or in that time frame, and what had just recently happened is the resource mix has transferred itself to be much more sensitive to cold than it was even then. And this is the first time that I'm aware where load became a critical element to the reliable operation of the bulk power system, bulk electric system. And that is to say that if we didn't serve that load then could not serve us. So that interdependency is something we need to start recognizing and modeling. We're working with the Department of Energy, of course, with some of their models. And then comms is another one, and water can be yet another. So I think those are kind of the major questions that I think we'll be dealing with as an industry today and in the coming years. So with that, I'd like to again thank Ms. Hollis and the whole team there at USEA. This metamorphosis of the bulk power system requires industry to amplify its expertise and collaborative bridges, and by identifying and quantifying these emerging issues, and risk-informed recommendations can be provided. And I reflect on USEA's mission, which of course is to educate and provide nonpartisan forum for an energy industry and support development by expanding access to safe, affordable, and sustainable energy in partnership with the government. And I think they do an outstanding job. And I think conferences like this, bringing people together to talk about the reliability challenges that we're facing, really lay the groundwork and help us share ideas, innovate, and mentor others. So with that, thank you again for inviting me.
Thank